Rawson Twitchell runs inside. Rawson Twitchell into the second level, the 10, the 5, touchdown Butte County.
It's time for another weekend of high school football in Idaho, and it's time for another edition of Gem State Game Day.
Simmons to throw. Going deep down the field. He's got a man isolated. Did he catch it? He did. Yeah. In traffic. What a grab by Guy Wheeler.
Before you head out tonight to cheer on your favorite team, get caught up on the latest news, notes, and previews from this weekend's Gridiron action.
Here's the snap, and it's intercepted at the 10-yard line. That's Bodie Brackenberry. Jackalow sniffed it out.
Gem State Game Day is brought to you by Valleywide Cooperative, Project Filter, and the Idaho Transportation Department.
This one's going to go all the way, 70 yards, no flag, touchdown Valley View. Austin Belknap, 70 yards to the house. Buckle up, here we go.
That's right. It is the Week 6 edition of Gem State Game Day here on IdahoSports.com. Welcome in, everybody. We're coming to you live Thursday morning, 8 o'clock Mountain Time, 7 o'clock Pacific Time, bright and early, first thing every Thursday morning on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. Of course, if you're not ready for to digest all this great football content so early in the morning, you can watch it anytime on replay, all day Thursday, all day Friday, again at those same three destinations, the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. Here we go. Welcome in Brandon Baney, joined by a couple of our prepcasters here on the IdahoSports.com network. From the East Idaho Prepcast, it is Sean Kane. Hello, Sean.
Hey, how's it going, Brandon and Ryan? Oh, you flipped it back. All right. I see the rankings. I didn't know we were talking media poll rankings already, but yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Well, I figured our placement on the screen should reflect where we're at in the Pick Six contest, Sean. And you,
I should be in front of you, shouldn't I?
We're both right there in tier number 2. Okay. Ryan Scaggs is here as well from the North Idaho Prepcast. Ryan, thank you for doing this.
Happy to join you this morning. Looking forward to the show.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we are halfway through the high school football regular season. Believe it or not, there are 10 weeks of regular season competition. We are getting ready for week 6 already. It's hard to believe. Before we get to all the juicy week 6 matchups, though, we always take a look back at what happened in week 5 with last week's headlines. And boy, were there some headlines. I think the biggest one that reverberated around the state had to be, and we'll talk about this more in just a second, guys. But our first headline, Kimberly stuns Sugar Salem with a walk-off field goal. That is now 2 losses in a row for the Diggers, who previously had won like 25 in a row. So Sugar's fallen on hard times. 17-14 loss there. Our next headline, Post Falls and Pocatello each win with 2-point stops on defense late. Post Falls beat Lakeland 21-20. Pocatello, a little more high scoring with Sandpoint, 49-48, but each team stopped the opposing team on a 2-point try late in the contest. And Cary crosses the 60-point mark for the 3rd time this year, guys. In fact, they put up 80 in an 80-0 shutout over Richfield. And so the Panthers settling right back into their old digs at the 1A classification for sure. But guys, it is time for our uncut gem of the week. We always revisit one game in particular from the week that was. This would be the week 5 slate of action. Just what was the most exciting game start to finish? And if it's got big statewide implications, all the better. Oh my gosh, guys. Kimberly 17, Sugar Salem 14. This was just remarkable. Now, Sugar Salem actually scored first. 79-yard touchdown run by Dawson McAnally with 6:23 to play in the first quarter of action. 7-0 Diggers. Sean, it stayed that way all the way into the 4th quarter where, okay, we thought Sugar scores early. It's going to be another nice victory for the Diggers. Not so much. 7-0 still into the 4th quarter. What was your reaction when you saw that on Friday night, that it was still 7-0 in the 4th?
I mean, you get on Idaho Sports, you hit the Friday night flash, and of course, you're kind of looking at games in your region, right? East Idaho, always going to check in to see, Sugar Salem up by 60. Not the case, right? You're kind of like, what? What's going on here, And followed that one. Tried to follow that one on my phone as I was doing some broadcasting duties as well, because that's everyone's question, What about that Sugar game? When's the last time Sugar's lost 2 games? I don't know. Never. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, so they've got that 7-0 lead into the fourth quarter. Kimberly finally ties it, basically one play into the fourth quarter. 14-yard touchdown pass from McCray Bruning to Titus Osterman. It came on a 4th and 5, so Kimberly a little more successful at converting on 4th down than, say, like the Philadelphia Eagles, who were over on Sunday. The game's tied at 7 with 11:54 to play. Next possession, Sugar fumbles. Kimberly jumps right on top of it, and Bruning hits Joe Barrett for a 29-yard touchdown. Just like that, 14-7, Kimberly, 8:52 to play. And now it's Sugar that's back on their heels a little bit, but give the Diggers credit. They march the ball down the field, a couple of yards at a time, a little chunk here, a little chunk there. They tie the game with 2:14 to play on a 42-yard touchdown pass from Jack Gardner to the big tight end, Hank Carter. And we were tied 14-all with 2:14 remaining. And then, guys, look at this final drive. Kimberly starts at their own 20-yard line. And here's how it goes. 13-yard pass from Bruning to Barrett. 3-yard run from Damon Taylor. Incomplete pass. All of a sudden, it's 3rd and 7 from the Kimberly 33-yard line. Just a minute 25 remaining. What do you do on 3rd and 7? You go to your big play guy, Osterman. Bruning, 17 yards to Osterman, takes it to the 50-yard line. Then a 4-yard run from Damon Taylor to the 46. Offsides penalty against Sugar makes it 2nd and 1 at the Sugar 41-yard line. We've got 48 seconds left. They're still Kimberly committed to the run. Taylor for 2 yards, and Kimberly uses their first timeout. It's 1st and 10 at the Sugar 39-yard line, 44 seconds to go. Incomplete pass, false start penalty. All of a sudden, it's 2nd and 15. They're going backwards. They're at the Sugar 44 with 38 seconds left. But again, they dial up Osterman. They needed 15. They get 15 to the 29-yard line. It's 1st and 10 with 33 seconds left. Incomplete pass. And then this was the really big one. With 14 seconds left, Bruning hits Osterman for a 17-yard gain down to the Sugar 12-yard line. It's 1st and 10, 14 seconds to go. Kimberly takes their second timeout. They take one shot to the end zone. It's incomplete. 2nd and 10, 9 seconds to go. They decide to run it with Taylor. Basically, they wanted to set it up on the middle of the field so their kicker could have a straight shot at it. Taylor loses a yard. It's 3rd and 11, 4.1 seconds to go. Kimberly takes their final timeout, and then Scaggs, Eddie Paz comes on. He is strictly a kicker and punter for this Kimberly team. It's a 30-yard field goal, drills it as time expires. Kimberly wins 17-14. This was a really impressive final drive that the Bulldogs put together, the 2-minute drill, basically.
Yeah, and you look at like a lot of these games and how this one went too is eerily similar to the game that we had on Friday night. As far as putting together that nice drive as the waning moments of the game. I mean, you look at the Sandpoint and Pocatello game, ended with a huge drive. A lot of these games just had stuff like that. This game had everything you wanted, from a defensive battle to where the last end of it, you're looking at who's going to be able to hang on until the gun fires at the end. But hats off to getting your kicker in the right spot to get the spot and actually being able to execute to get off the football. Sometimes you'll see the pile kind of linger, and then you'll see the clock eventually run out. And it was a great job for them to get it there, not, linger too long on the football, and coach to get the heady play to get the timeout call with 4 seconds left to get that attempt by Paz, and he nails it, and hats off. I mean, Lance Taylor might be the only one that I could think of that might know when Sugar was lost 2 games in a row. So, and that may have been like during the Carter administration or something.
Well, I can guarantee I would not want to be Sugar's next opponent. We'll talk about that in a second. Sean, for Kimberly, they don't have their full complement of players. They've been injury riddled all season long. They've played probably the most rigorous schedule of anybody in 4A. They've played Sugar Salem. They've played Homedale. They played Sutter Union from California at the Rocky Mountain Rumble. They played Snake River. They've played basically all of the favorites from all of the other districts in the state of Idaho for 4A football.
Yeah, what's the word that comes to mind? Battle tested is Kimberly right now. Time management, check. Beaten the best team the last few years, check. Played hard opponents, check. The resume, you're hiring Kimberly for a job. They've come in. Their suit doesn't look that great, but their resume is checking off all the checks.
Yeah, that's right. I like that analogy. That's really good. Okay, let's go to the Week 6 schedule in Class 4A football. Kimberly actually has not played a conference game yet, guys. So they are 2-3 overall, 0-0 in conference. Does that change this week? It does not. There's only one game in their conference, Wood River at Buell, and basically Kimberly on bye. So a pretty good time for the Bulldogs to rest up and maybe try and get some of those injured players back. So again, we've got the standings statewide for 4A football on the left. And again, 4A is the smallest classification in terms of number of teams. So really only 1, 2, 3, 4 teams statewide have actually played a conference game. That'll change this week. On the right, you see the schedule of games by league. Let's go with Ryan first. Ryan, what 4A game do you have your eye on here this week?
I really want to take the Homer game, and I probably will. So I'm going to go Lakeland and Moscow. Moscow ranked now third in the media poll, and you kind of look at what Moscow's been doing with their resume, and 5-0 going into this game. It's the old 5A IEL from last year. Moscow dropped the classification, so now it's a non-league affair. A really, really good Lakeland attack. I mean, we saw them Friday night offensively. They outgained Post Falls by a significant margin. I mean, this offense is clicking on all cylinders with a really heady, strong defense. And I mean, if they can clean up the penalty things, that they get a win on Friday night against Post Falls, in my opinion. But Moscow coming into this game on a roll. I mean, they're undefeated on the season. They've been a little light on the schedule at times this year. So finally, I think this is really their first real test. I know Pullman and Clarkson were both tough teams last year at the 2A ranks in Washington, but they're not the same team necessarily this year. So I really look at this Moscow. We want to know how good the Bears are. We'll see how they handle Lakeland on Friday night. That's going to be an absolute dogfight.
Still 5 undefeated teams in the 4A ranks, Moscow and Gooding, and then 3 of them in the Snake River Valley Conference, Fruitland, Homedale, and McCall Donnelly. Sean, what's the week 6 game you've got your eye on for 4A football?
I mean, the one that kind of sticks out to me is Teton versus Snake River. You have a very good Teton team that hasn't won a game yet against Snake River. I see that being a very interesting battle. Both teams maybe not having the start of the season that they wanted, and this could be a signature win for those two teams going into the, like you said, the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, Teton is, unless he came back last week, has been without really their offensive identity and the heartbeat of their team, Jack Joyce, all-state running back. He's been out all season with an injury he suffered in the offseason. It's really impacted their ability, and they've played a rigorous schedule as well. American Falls, South Fremont's going to be an interesting non-conference battle. I feel like that one could be almost like an elimination type game when you're looking at like Max Prep's rankings at the end of the year and at-large bids and stuff. That's going to be a key game. I'm excited to see Wood River and Buell battle. Wood River fell to Filer last week in their conference opener. This, to me, is a must-win game for the Wolverines, who have made the playoffs each of the past 2 years, the 2 years they've been in 4A football. That streak in jeopardy now as they're just 1-3 overall. The game I'm going to highlight, guys, though, is in that Snake River Valley Conference. It's McCall Donnelly and it's Weiser. We've kind of forgotten. Yes, we've kind of forgotten about Weiser a little bit because they lost to Buell very famously. We talked about it here on Gem State Game Day. They lost to Lakeland, but since then they've quietly put together 2 wins in a row. They're 2-2 overall. Conference opener for each of these teams. McCall Donnelly is 4-0. They won a tight game last week, and so I really do think all 4 of those teams, Fruitland, Homedale, McCall Donnelly, and Weiser, will make the playoffs. The question is, in what order? This will be kind of the first data point to tell us along the way. So
look at Weiser Payette sitting there at 3-1. Like, wait, what do we have to do, Brandon? Like, they're playing Homedale this week. I mean, that's a Payette team that's on an upswing right now. I know that you could look at scheduling and stuff like that too, but that's a team that had been on hard times of late, and then coming out this year, opening the year 3-1, I think is a huge deal for that program.
Absolutely. You're right. Payette's had a fantastic start to the year. Head coach Marty Avila in his first season. He's a Payette alum. He's really injected some life into that Payette program. Okay, we'll see. You get the top dog right away at Homedale.
Yeah,
for sure. So good luck to the Pirates here this Friday night. All right, guys, that's what's going on in the 4A ranks. When we come back, We will break down the 6A, 5A slate of games. It is headlined by a couple of juicy rivalry matchups, including the old Black and Blue Bowl between Highland and Pocatello. Those two have battled for some time, Sean. And we will talk to Pocatello's quarterback and defensive back, Hunter May. He has been filling up the stat sheet lately. So stay tuned for that. It's all coming up right after this break. You're watching Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.
A hit in the morning, another between class, after school, and more before bed. Vaping sucks you in quick. Not to mention all the chemicals and health problems everyone's talking about. That's why thousands of teens are ready to take back their life their own way with My Life, My Quit. When you sign up with us, you'll get a free and simple quit plan that makes it easier to stop vaping. Visit mylifemyquit.com or text Start My Quit to 36072.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day here on IdahoSports.com. Pleased to be joined now by Hunter May of the Pocatello Thunder. You have had a couple of wild weeks these last 2 weeks, and your team as well. Hunter, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Of course. It's an honor. It's an honor.
Absolutely. Well, okay, real quick, 2 weeks ago, you guys are playing Blackfoot. You guys were down. You had to rally back. You ended up, throwing a couple of touchdowns. You had an interception on defense. You lost a tight game in overtime, though, when Blackfoot decided to go for 2. You lose 29-28. What was Coach Spillett's message to you guys as you prepared to take on a really good Sandpoint team last Friday?
The message was not to worry, to just stay on the straight and narrow path. There's going to be bumps and there's going to be roadblocks, but to not levy from what we preach, and that's just to be physical and keep our hard nose and just keep working, keep our heads down.
Yeah, so you guys go from a 1-point loss to Blackfoot, then you turn around last Friday. You play Sandpoint at a neutral site game over in Montana. You guys get a 1-point win, 49-48. It came down to basically Sandpoint scored what they thought was going to be the game-tying touchdown. They decided to go for 2 a week after you were burned by the 2-point conversion. This time your defense gets the stop. You guys win by a single point, 49-48. What was the feeling when you guys stopped Sandpoint on that 2-point try?
It was just joy, man. It felt good. I mean, that's just football. They went right up the middle, and it was 11 on 11, baby, and we just prevailed. It just like a stalemate right in the middle. It was really cool.
Yeah. Now for your contributions to that game, 5 touchdown passes, 2 touchdowns on the ground. You played the whole game on defense as well. You rushed for over 200 yards from the quarterback spot. Have you ever been involved in a shootout where, okay, yes, I'm playing well, but I got to keep playing well because Sandpoint is also putting the points up on the board?
Not like that, not 48-49. I mean, that kind of brings me back to like Little League almost, but not in high school. I've never been in a shootout like that. It was crazy.
It was phenomenal work by you and your teammates. So you're the quarterback, you get the headlines a lot, but take this opportunity to shine the light on some of your teammates that are maybe less heralded that our audience should know about. Who are some of the guys that have really been key to your guys' start this season?
First I want to thank my whole line. Obviously I can't do any of what I do without them. So I want to thank them. I'm going to thank my coaches. My coaches are great. They get all the plays, you know what I'm saying? And then my receivers, all of them, I'm going to say all my receivers. I like throwing to Hunter Cordell, great receiver. He had 3 touchdowns against Sandpoint. Jet Meckling, he caught a couple balls. Cody Cons, Jonathan, they're all dogs. And then my lead blockers, Tavin and Castucci, Tavin Williams, they got to thank them. They're great.
Yeah, a lot of those names are new to us because Pocatello was so senior heavy last year. And so you are leading a group of relative newcomers to the varsity game. What's that process been like?
It's been fun, man. I feel like they're adjusting like on the fly really well. So, I mean, it's been a great, just learning everything. They've obviously been in the system for a couple years now, but I think they're learning really great. And I feel like the game's not too fast for them at all.
Once upon a time, I remember this because I was at this game. Your sophomore year, you guys were at the Rocky Mountain Rumble. You guys don't have your quarterback. You get kind of thrown into the fire as a young buck and had to do some on-the-job learning. Now that you've matured and you're a veteran leading this team, where have you improved the most? Has the game slowed down for you at all from way back when you were a sophomore and you were thrown into it to where you're now a veteran?
Oh yeah, for sure. When I was a sophomore, I rarely ever made more than like 1 to 2 reads, to be honest. Like I was 1 to 2 reads and I would just try to run. But now I feel like the game has slowed down. I can see the defense a lot better. I'm making way more reads and my progressions feel a lot better. And my arm's a lot stronger, I think.
For sure. What did you think of Sandpoint? I mean, they are the team that has been kind of the power up north the last couple of years in 5A football. Obviously, they've got a good offense. What did you think of Sandpoint in that non-conference matchup?
I thought they were a great team. I thought they played great. Their offense was amazing. Their defense was great. We've had a taste of them last year. Dave was preaching the whole time that they're going to be coming for our necks because we ended their season last year. So we came in with that sort of feeling that they're going to come out and give us their best. So I thought it was a great game.
What did you think of going to play in Montana, a stadium that you probably had never been to before?
Oh, it was great, actually. The thing is, it's like our home away from home. That's where we do our summer camp at. So, I mean, we were very familiar with the field. I mean, it was brand new, but we were definitely familiar with the area, familiar with the ride. I thought it was great.
I'm trying to remember. You guys played in Butte, right? Was it at Montana Tech?
Montana Tech, yep.
Okay. Has Montana Tech reached out to you? Was that an opportunity for them to say, hey, we'd like you to come? Are there schools that are interested in your services at the next level?
Right now, I mean, not really, to be honest. I'm talking to like my coach and I'm talking to my dad and my parents. And we're really talking about what my future really holds. Cause I really don't even know like what I'm going to do in the future, you know?
Yeah. It's nice to have options. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you guys get ready. Friday night, biggest rivalry game, Highland, the Black and Blue Bowl, as it's nicknamed. Highland is 5-0, but they have the last couple of weeks they've had to pull games out of the fire late, kind of like you guys. How do you view this matchup with Highland?
I always think it's great. I mean, the crosstown rivalry always brings in a bunch of the people. The stands are going to be loaded. It's always fun. I mean, I got a couple homies at Highland. I mean, I love the matchup. It's going to be a fun game.
Okay. So you got some friends that play for Highland. Are you texting them at all this week, or is it radio silence until after the game?
Right now it's radio silence, but I mean, we could text in the future.
For sure. Okay. And then it's the Black and Blue Bowl. Do you guys play? Is there a trophy or something attached to this game, or is it just bragging rights?
All pride. It is all pride. There's no trophy, but it's just all pride.
Well, Pokey pride at an all-time high. The Pocatello Thunder, you guys continuing to rock and roll. It'll be really fun to watch you compete on Friday night, and good luck the rest of the way. Hunter May, we appreciate the time.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, guys, there you go. That was Hunter May from Pocatello High School. Sean, I'm going to put you back down here where you belong. But wow. Sean, you're going to be on the call for this game for IdahoSports.com, right?
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you, last year, instant classic, right? Pocatello has the chance to tie the game up. Last second pass just falls out of the receiver's hands. And then you think back to 3 years ago when Hunter May had to kind of, you just heard in the interview, sneak into that quarterback role due to an injury, right? And that game was 7-14 2 years ago. Last year it was 24-17. Highlands won the last two. We won't get too much into the record, but it's their instant classics. It's going to be at Iron Horse. Iron Horse, I think is, if you had to have top 10 venues, it's got to be one of the best venues. It's a great place. The scenery is great. It will be full. It'll be exciting. And you hit it on the point too. Highlands. I did Highland last week against Thunder Ridge, and Highland is not necessarily the team that we're used to seeing, but they definitely have a lot of great weapons and great players too. And their defense is always good, like the last 60 years or so. But it'll be a phenomenal matchup. I think it's going to be good. I think both teams need a win. I think Pocatello needs a win. They've had some ups and downs. The Blackfoot loss, the win in Sandpoint. Highland's 5-0, but it's got to be like I don't know. You'd almost have to put an asterisk by that 5-0 at this point with how some of the games unfolded. But you got to give credit to Nick Sorrell and that coaching staff finding ways to win. And really, at the end of the day, in football games, that's what it takes, right? You got to find a way. Maybe this isn't working, but we're going to find a way to win. And that's what the Rams have done so far this season. So I'm very excited to see this game on Friday night.
Yeah, they're kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs. They've had to pull a lot of games out of the fire this year, but they keep winning. They're 5-0, so you can't really dismiss that. Okay, so let's take a look at, we'll start at the 6A level, and then we'll go down to 5A. This is what's happening across the 6A landscape, guys. We had finally the Southern Idaho Conference first round of division games were last week. Rocky Mountain, Timberline, Middleton, all winners in the Foothills division. Bora, Eagle, and Kuna, all winners in the River division. If you told me that, yeah, Timberline would be 3-1 and Bora would be 3-1 and Kuna would be 2-2 with a win under their belts in league play and Meridian would be 1-3, you're lying. Okay,
you'd be at number one in the picks, right?
Yeah, nobody saw this coming this year. So it's going to be interesting as we get into more divisional play in the SIC. But outside of the Black and Blue Bowl, Ryan, what is the game that you're looking forward to at the 6A ranks this week?
The one that it's going to be part of our picks. I don't want to ruin anything, but my mind's a pretzel over is having to pick a winner between Meridian and Middleton. I think that game in the SIC is going to be a phenomenal ball game. I could go up north and talk about a Washington school or, Coeur d'Alene Sandpoint's always got fireworks, but that Meridian Middleton game has all the makings to be just an absolute dogfight and slugfest between those two teams. You look at, Zeke Martinez and what Meridian brings to the table and the host of talent that Middleton has at receiver and skill position, plus the offensive line. And I mean, that's just got all the recipe there for an absolutely great ball game.
Yeah, for Meridian, it's almost a must win. I mean, they're 1-3. They're 0-1. Yeah.
I would say this is as close as it gets for Meridian as a must win game. I mean, if they really want to realistically have a shot at the playoffs coming out of this thing, I mean, they've got to get a win in this ball game.
And they lost the one, the quote unquote was the easiest. I mean, Timberline. I mean, that can't happen. Sean, what is the game you're keeping an eye on?
I'm going to keep an eye on Madison Thunder Ridge, right? Madison has yet to lose a game. You have a Thunder Ridge team that had all kinds of opportunities to beat Highland. Highland had 4 fumbles, just quite couldn't put the game away or find some footing. But Thunder Ridge is also, they have Ezra Moss as their quarterback. They actually had Ryder Portman was supposed to be the starter, and he got injured, broken collarbone in the game before the Highland game. So Thunder Ridge adjusting and different things. But I think this is a huge conference game, huge implications on whether a team might make it to the playoffs or not. So I think this Madison Thunder Ridge game is going to tell us what Madison really has and if Thunder Ridge can kind of get over that hump.
Yeah, with me, Madison also undefeated, right? They're 5-0, but I'm kind of like with Highland. The jury to me is still out on Madison. I don't know that they've played some good teams, but I'm still not convinced they're ready to take that next step. And I'm not sure if they win against Thunder Ridge, I'll probably still be in the same boat next week, guys.
They received a first place vote, but they're not even ranked in the top 5. I don't know if I've ever seen that happen before, but yeah that was pretty interesting.
I will tell you that the scattering report on Madison Bobcats is their offensive line and defensive line are just they've got a lot of breakfast foods. They're gigantic, and they can make the game long or short, however you want to put it. But both lines, defensive, offensive line, have been putting in a huge amount of work. We don't always get to those guys. We always kind of talk about the big skilled guys, but Madison's lines have been putting in some heavy work.
Okay, well, that's a good place to start if you want to build a successful program for sure. Okay, guys, my game, Post Falls is going to play at Glacier Peak, Washington. They're over in Snohomish, and normally you would say, yeah, whatever. But this is an undefeated battle. Glacier Peak is undefeated. They're really good. This is going to be a good measuring stick for Post Falls. But the game I'll go to is Owyhee at Kuna. Now, last week we gave Owyhee their flowers, right? They beat Meridian in a non-divisional game. It was a cross-pod game. But we thought, okay, Owyhee's finally ready. Here they come. Well, not so fast. They stubbed their toe and suffer a setback to Bora, which, by the way, that was our IdahoSports.com Pick 6 game last week. Nobody picked Bora to win. So shout out to Coach JQ Kenyon and the Lions there. Now Owyhee, it's their first loss of the season. Okay, how do you handle that adversity? You're taking on a Kuna team that I think is better than people think. They're 2-2 overall. They're 1-0. They did get a win over Mountain View in their first divisional game last week. So to me, it is Owyhee and Kuna. That's the game I am most excited to see.
Maybe we need a new segment like IdahoSports.com's flop of the week, because we've had a couple big flops on our picks. You know what I mean? But
I think we've had one like almost every week.
Yes. Yeah, and I love when we all pick somebody and then we're wrong, and then the team that we picked against lets us have it. I'm all for it. I'm all for the public embarrassment for sure. All right, guys, here's the 5A schedule for this week, week 6. Here are the standings again on your left, the schedule of games on the right. Let's go to Sean first on this one. Outside of the Black and Blue Bowl, which you already teased so perfectly, what is the 5A game you're most excited for?
Well, there's a couple. I think. Well, no, there's not really a couple. Come on, it's Idaho Falls Skyline. This is the Emotion Bowl. It's the one of the biggest games in in Idaho, just like the Black and Blue. What a weekend for rivalry games, right? But I think the Idaho Falls Skyline game has some implications that's going to be very interesting. I've seen Idaho Falls play. They've got some good pieces. We obviously know what Skyline has. They just had a big win over Hillcrest, which could be two teams playing again later. But let's not forget Idaho Falls kind of lurking in the background. It's classic District 6 where there's, how many teams and they all can maybe potentially win. But yeah, that Emotion Bowl, circle it down. It's going to be, I think there's going to be some fireworks.
Yeah, that is a Saturday night game, 7:00 from Ravston Stadium in Idaho Falls. It is our IdahoSports.com Gem State Game of the Week, a little Saturday night special for you this week on IdahoSports.com. And yeah, Idaho Falls is 1-3, but you can throw the records out the window. Idaho Falls has been behind Skyline in terms of program development the last several years, but Idaho Falls won a couple years ago in a matchup they quote unquote shouldn't have, and they always seem to push Skyline as well. And so this game, yes, I'm very excited for it. Ryan, what's the game you're looking at?
I think that Emmett Valley View game. I'm kind of, I know that all the people up north are going to sandbag me a little bit, but that Emmett Valley View game's got a lot of, you look at the top of that SIC and the 5A ranks. There's playoff implications at stake in this game, in my opinion, with Bishop Kelly still in the mix too. But these two programs having themselves a pretty good start to the season. You got Shea McClellan's group from Valley View coming up and taking on that Emmett team is, they're hosting Emmett, I should say. Emmett, very heavy, run offense, ball control. Valley View likes to be, balanced. And that's the thing I think to see this game is the defensive stance from both teams. It'd be really interesting to see this ball game, how it turns out. It's got the great implications for playoffs, like we talked about, with those at-large bids at stake. I mean, everybody wants to fight. If you look at BK, Valley View, Emmett, you could sprinkle in Columbia too, maybe at that top echelon, those top four in that conference. I mean, they're kind of fighting for the second seed, if you really think about it, or the first seed, depending on how they play BK. I think it's anybody's game this year as far as the conference is a little bit more balanced than it's been in years past. BK has definitely shown some vulnerability. So, I mean, there's a lot at stake in this ballgame. Should be a really, really good game.
Yeah, to me, the top four, I think this year are going to be Emmett, Bishop Kelly, Valley View, and Nampa in some order. I'm not sure what the order. Columbia, maybe. I need to see more from them. But that top four, the important thing is you want to finish in the top two, because the top two teams from District 3, the Southern Idaho Conference, automatically get a top 8 seed. Even if Max Prep says the second place team is only the 10th or 11th best team in the state, they automatically get a top 8 seed because there have been 8 predetermined slots based upon district representation, and those teams automatically get the top 8 seeds. So you're talking about a home game in the opening round of the playoffs, and maybe a second if you get a high enough seed. But so yes, I agree. Emmett Valley View is going to be absolutely crucial. Columbia Bishop Kelly is going to be a fun one too, guys. It is kind of rivalry week here on IdahoSports.com. We've got the Black and Blue Bowl, Highland and Pocatello. We've got the Emotion Bowl, Idaho Falls and Skyline. And we are broadcasting a third rivalry game this week as well, Friday night, the River Rivalry between Burley and Minico. And they play for a big river paddle. And the River Rivalry, that'll be a fun game. I'll be honest. Burley still gives up way too many points defensively. They lost to Preston in a high-scoring game last week. This is their conference opener. I need to see more from Burley on defense before. I mean, Minico, to me, I think should win that game. The game I'm most intrigued by, guys, actually, though, is Bonneville and Blackfoot, because somebody unfortunately has to finish last in this conference, but all of these teams are good. Skyline, Hillcrest, they played a great battle last week. Shelley is always really good. Blackfoot beat Pocatello. Idaho Falls, we've talked about, a chance to make a statement in the Emotion Bowl this week. Bonneville almost beat Bishop Kelly earlier this year. So to me, Bonneville and Blackfoot, in past years, 16 teams get to the playoffs from Class 5A football. Usually 5 of the 6 have gotten in the past couple of years. So this to me is an important game for both Bonneville and Blackfoot to try and raise their standing a little bit. So that is the game I am most excited to see. And if you're wondering, like, hey, yeah, playoff picture, how's that looking? Starting next week on Gem State Game Day, I'll start dusting off the Max Preps rankings, and I'll have a projected bracket each week, and here's what it's going to look like. And so that'll be another element we add to the show. But for now, this week, we march on. When we come back here on Gem State Game Day, we will take a look at the Class 3A games that we've got our eye on this week. Don't go anywhere. We're back with more Gem State Game Day right after this on IdahoSports.com.
Later.
Lisa's here. Girl, thank you.
Hello?
I was in an accident.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I had my seatbelt on.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com. Brandon Baney with Ryan Scaggs and Sean Kane. Let's move on to what's going on in Class 3A football this week in the great state of Idaho. Again, the standings to your left, the actual schedule of games to your right. Let's see. Ryan, what are you looking at here in week 6 of the Class 3A? It's a lighter schedule this week. A lot of teams have their bye. This is harvest time, right? Especially over in like East Idaho. This is where a lot of schools start taking that harvest break. But what are you looking at here in week 6?
I mean, the one that stands out, it's a neutral site game. The only one that's out there, West J and Grangeville, I think is going to be an absolute dandy of a ball game. I mean, you want to talk about prognostication for playoffs and everything else. I mean, that's realistically, you could see that game happening in the first or second round of the state playoffs. Those two teams playing each other. Grangeville running attack. Grangeville lost a baseball game last week to McCall Donnelly 9-2. I mean, I make the joke, but that game was an absolute defensive slugfest between those two teams. And Grangeville brings, that staunch defensive attack, but a really steady running it with a great quarterback. And so Grangeville can get things moving offensively. I mean, they could give West J some problems. West Jefferson in their own right's a good ball club too. And, they're looking that conference that they're in with North Fremont, Ryrie's in front of them. Firth's still in the mix too. I mean, it's anybody's game in the nuclear conference, but I mean, you realistically look at that as a playoff game. If you say anything to me, like you could realistically see those guys playing in October.
Yeah, because you figure West J is gonna. I mean, they'll have a chance to punch up. I mean, North Fremont, Ryrie, Firth, kind of the clear top 3 in the Nuke Conference for now. But West J is saying, hey, what about us? We're 2-1 overall. They have a nice win over Wendell, and then they beat Cokeville, Wyoming. And then they lost to South Fremont 20-7, and now they're coming off the bye. So this is a big opportunity for West J under first-year coach Corey Hall to really make a statement. They've got some really good skill guys. Grangeville's got the advantage in the trenches, so this is going to be a really fun game.
And
Sean?
go ahead. If I can add one more thing with that is Grangeville, looking for rankings sake, their conference isn't going to give them any favors in the rankings. So they need to pick up as many of these non-conference wins against teams that are going to be piling wins on as the year goes on. Grangeville needs this for playoff seeding, absolutely, if they're going to get the win.
The one saving grace for Grangeville this year is there are only 4 divisions. In years past, there were 5, but Declo and Wendell decided we've had enough of this 2-team conference. We're going to join the teams from District 5. So in years past, Grangeville had kind of always been the number 5 seed of the 5 conference champions. This year, at least they'll be the number 4 seed if they finish there, because you're right. There's just, in terms of Max Preps ranking, no offense to the other teams in the Central Idaho League, but they're just not going to give Grangeville those opportunities to move up against other statewide powers. Sean, what's the game you're looking for?
Oh, we're going to get on the boat and we're going to watch West Side Pirates at Declo. big time matchup. You know, these two teams played twice last year. One was a 27-26 win by Westside, and then, you know, Westside went ahead and went on to win pretty easily in that championship game. But now Declo being in the conference, I think it's a very intriguing matchup for that conference with an Aberdeen team that's just playing unreal right now. But yeah, Westside Declo, you see a ton of implication in this. They're in the conference. They always end up playing each other at state. Like you've got all kinds of fireworks. Westside doesn't have a cannon at their stadium, but I mean, they got a pirate, you know, they're the Pirates. I know it's at Declo, but you know, someone's got to have a cannon for this game because it's going to blow up.
Yeah. Declo did win that regular season matchup last year. That was the game where famously Westside had the ball deep in Declo territory, and they were inadvertently given that 5th down. They were given an extra down by the officiating crew, and Declo stopped them on 5 downs to get out of there with the win. Westside remembered that, took it out on them in the state championship game. I agree. This is going to be the best game statewide. If you're just a fan and you're looking for somewhere to go and you're close to Declo, you're going to want to head there. The way these two teams play defense, first team to 14 might win. I mean, 10 might do it. I mean, honestly, with the guys that they've got, Westside on the defensive line, Declo more so in the secondary, this is going to be just a chef's kiss of a matchup. I guess, guys, the game I'll take on, you know, Nampa Christian and Melba coming into the season. We thought that was a game that might decide the Western Idaho Conference title. And you look and they're both 1-3, but they've played really tough schedules so far. Marcin sitting there quietly in 3-1. They've got the week off, but guys, I'm going to the Nuke, Firth and Ryrie. We're going to figure out the hierarchy of this Nuke conference pretty darn quick here between North Fremont, Ryrie, West J, and Firth. Firth lost a tight one with Declo last week. They're 2-2. And we'll see if the run-in Bulldogs, they love to run the rock. We'll see if they can run it to a victory, but Firth and Ryrie is going to be a fantastic battle. That's what's going on at the 3A ranks. All right, guys, we'll take another break. We'll come back with our 8-man breakdown. What's going on in Class 2A and 1A here in Week 6? We'll find out right after this break. You're watching Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.
We're Valley-wide country store. For 100 years, we've been your #1 choice for food, fuel, farm supplies, and just about everything else you could need to get you through your day. We know you work until the job is done, and so do we. For gas on the go or a little extra to help you get down the road, you can count on us. We are proud to employ your neighbors and to be a cornerstone of your community. We're Valley-wide. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. We're here for you.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com. Brandon Baney with Ryan Scaggs and Sean Kane breaking down the Week 6 schedule of games here on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. Time to talk a little 8-man ball, guys. Let's go to the Class 2A breakdown here in Week 6. There are the standings on the left, the schedule of games on the right. No games in the High Desert Conference this week. Grace and Butte County both on bye. Kind of a double bye for the Pirates. They didn't play last week either. Sean, let's start with you. What is the 2A game you're most excited to watch here in Week 6?
Well, I'll start with a little bit. I did see on Grace's Facebook that they're extended because they're doing harvest down there. So that's probably why Grace isn't playing, doing that harvest break. But, you know, I'm going to go. There's not a lot of a few less games this week, but I kind of think that Raft River Glens Ferry game is pretty interesting in that conference, Snake River Conference. Glens Ferry 2-1, Raft River 4-0 and 2-0 in the conference. So the first game for Glens Ferry, the Pilots team that you know, it's not a team that we talk about a whole lot, I don't think, as far as football, but I think that's a very intriguing matchup in that conference this week.
Yeah, Glens Ferry got off to a 2-0 start against, you know, I'll be honest, two teams that were overmatched a little bit, Clearwater Valley and then Wilder. First real test came against Grace last week, and Grace beat them by a couple of touchdowns. Raft River had a nail biter with Oakley in their annual rivalry game last week. They had to pull it out late to win by a score. And so for Raft River, this is another big test for the Trojans and certainly for the Pilots. A win here would send shockwaves through the 8-man landscape. Skaggs, I got to assume you're going with something from the White Pine League up north, right?
Oh man, this is we finally get into the part of the schedule that you look at when you're looking at it in the summer when it came out. You circled this one, Prairie and Logos. I mean, it's going to be, I think, a really intriguing ball game. I mean, you talk about contrasting styles of Prairie pounding the rock. Logos likes to be multiple on offense. They can run it in their own right, but in different ways. But also with that spread attack with the 8-man where they can throw the ball too. This is going to be an awesome ball game. I look at Prairie and Logos. I think Logos gets the win in the game, but I mean, you know, Coach Hasselstrom does such a great job with that group too. And this is a Prairie team that's going to be all these teams coming out of the White Pine as we approach like playoff time. We haven't even talked about Kendrick, I don't think, in any one of our episodes this year. And that as we continually steadily beat that drum closer to that matchup in a couple weeks. But this is the first test for Logos in conference with Prairie. This is going to be a dandy of a ball game.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Kendrick because they've only played 3 games and we're coming up on week 6 of the season.
He just wants to talk about him.
I did. I got him in there. Zane doesn't have to text me every week, so yeah.
And B, if we're being honest, you know, they've played Troy and Clearwater Valley. Those are 2 teams that'll be unfortunately at the bottom of the standings. And then they did beat Oakley, a very banged up Oakley. They haven't played anybody yet. That won't continue this week against Lapwai either. In terms of, I think Lapwai's good, but Kendrick is a level above them. Guys, the game I'm looking at is Notice and Rimrock in the Western Idaho Conference. It's time for some real talk here. Only one team from this conference is getting into the playoffs, and that's going to be the conference champ, the Idaho City, Wilder, and even Rimrock, you know, stubbing their toe last week. That they didn't bankroll enough out of conference wins. This league as a whole, they lost to a lot of the 1A teams from District 3. They kind of fumbled away those opportunities to compete for an at-large bid. So it's going to come down to the conference champion. I think the 2 best teams, I could be wrong. I always say you pick against Idaho City. In the last 2 years, they've kind of proven me wrong. But Notice and Rimrock to me are the 2 teams, and they're both banged up. Mm-hmm. So in a battle of wills, who can take that first step? We might look back on this Notice Rimrock game and go, oh yeah, that was for the conference championship. Notice in particular, the overwhelming favorite coming into the season in this conference, but they have been decimated by injuries to the point where the field has evened quite a bit. So Notice and Rimrock is the game I am most excited to see there. And then here's the 1A 8-man schedule here in week number 6. Again, a little bit of a lighter schedule. A lot of teams on bye. Sean, I'll let you go first this time. Actually, I'll let Ryan go first this time. Ryan, what are you looking at here at the 1A ranks?
Every one of those games in the long pin is going to be a great game. I mean, you look at the league as a whole, but I've got to go with that Lakeside Genesee game. I mean, kind of a crossover, White Pine, North Star. That Lakeside offense is so dynamic. What's Genesee? You know, we've seen their schedule so far earlier in the year. They've come up with some big wins. Coach Podrobsky's done a great job with Genesee getting that program rolling in the right direction. With a big test this week. I think Lakeside, if they want to make some noise and get back into the media rankings statewide, I mean, they go 4-0 this week if they get a win at Genesee over, a good ball club. That's going to be a ton for that, a big lift for that Knights team as they go back into league play. I like Lakeside and Genesee. I think is going to be a very intriguing ball game. I think you had the Coeur de Christ game different because I believe they're playing Deary in a crossover this week, but
sorry about
that.
Don't pay
but yeah,
attention to
Lakeside,
that
Genesee. Oh, Genesee's playing both of them at the same time. But yeah, Lakeside Genesee definitely has the makings, I think, of a good game. I mean, expect, Tyson Charlie, he was a touchdown machine. I mean, if you look at his stat sheet so far this season, just unbelievable. He's, in my mind, could be the front runner for player of the year at 1A. He can certainly bolster those chances with a huge night on Friday.
You're right. Coeur de Christ got their first win of the season last week and first win in school history last week against Clark Fork. They are playing Deary. You are correct. Don't pay attention to that graphic, folks. Lakeside and Genesee, you figure no matter how this game goes, they'll go their separate ways and continue to pile up the wins. So this is kind of the rising tides lifts all boats in terms of the Max Preps rankings. You would think Genesee, came into the season on a 16-game losing streak. They lost in week 1, so the losing streak was at 17 games. They've now won 3 in a row since then, so they are definitely on the upswing. Sean, what is the 1A game you're looking at here in week 6?
I'm kind of interested to see the Mackey at Rockland. You talked about decimated. I understand that Rockland's been decimated by injuries. They only had like 10 guys suit up against that game against Hagerman. They had a freshman in at quarterback, and it was very difficult. And so I'm kind of interested to see, can Mackey sneak in a win here with Rockland having some injury issues? Rockland was kind of a top team, you were kind of looking at them, and then they've went through some kind of snap, they've had some problems, but they still did pretty good against Dietrich. They only lost 26-30, but can they get through these injuries? 8-man football and you're down to 10 people could be very difficult.
Yeah, and Rockland has played 3 different quarterbacks this year. They're down to basically their 3rd string QB at this point. Can they hang on? Mackey is a team I don't know yet. They're 1-2, and their problem is they have really struggled to stop teams. They've given up a lot of points this year, and then they haven't scored a lot on their own. I'll take the other game from the Rocky Mountain Conference, guys. North Gem at Chalice. I got to be honest, Rockland was the favorite coming into the season, but they are the walking wounded, as Sean alluded to. And so to me, this conference race is wide open. Now, Rockland already beat Chalice when they were still, quote unquote, somewhat healthy 2 weeks ago. But this game right here, North Gem at Chalice, to me, this is kind of like an elimination game. I think when it's all said and done, probably only 2 teams are going to make the playoffs from this conference. Maybe a third can squeeze out an at-large bid. North Gem looks really good at times, and then at times I'm like, man, time to go back to the drawing board. They have had a problem turning the ball over. They have fumbled a lot, which in an option offense, that's a problem. So North Gem at Chalice is the game I'm looking at here, guys. To me, I kind of view that as almost a quasi elimination game in terms of, postseason contention, but we shall see. All right. When we come back, guys, it's time to conclude the show with our IdahoSports.com Pick 6. We'll see the games we chose this week and who we thought might win those games. We'll also tell you which games we're going to be broadcasting this weekend on IdahoSports.com. It is a jam-packed lineup full of juicy matchups. So don't go anywhere. We're back for one final segment right after this on Gem State Game Day on IdahoSports.com.
Later.
He's here. Girl, thank you.
Hello?
I was in an accident.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I had my seatbelt on.
Welcome back to Gem State Game Day here on IdahoSports.com. One final time, Brandon Baney with Ryan Scaggs from the North Idaho Prepcast and Sean Kane from the East Idaho Prepcast. If you're curious about our Prepcast, what's that? You can check it all out at IdahoSports.com. All of our weekly podcasts that we do, we call them Prepcasts because we're talking prep sports. They're all right there on the left side of the homepage at IdahoSports.com. But guys, this weekend, it's time to see what's on tonight at IdahoSports.com. We've got Friday games and even a Saturday game for you. Here's what we've got. We've got that Meridian at Middleton game Friday night, 7 o'clock. Nampa Christian at Melba Friday night. Burley at Minico, the River Rivalry. Pocatello and Highland, the Black and Blue Bowl. And then our IdahoSports.com Gem State Game of the Week Saturday night, the Emotion Bowl, Idaho Falls and Skyline. There is not a bad matchup in the bunch. So are you ready for week 6 of the Idaho high school football season, guys? That is like, I can't think of a time, it's been a while since we've had a lineup of games, Ryan, where all of them are going to be fantastic, like on paper going in, right?
Yeah, that's a juicy lineup of games. I mean, we're entering the rivalry stretch as we go into the season, and you look at the broadcast schedule for like the next 4 weeks, there are some unbelievable games that we're going to be lucky to be able to broadcast here on IdahoSports.com.
Absolutely. And a lot of those games we're broadcasting just so happened to make our IdahoSports.com pick 6 this week. For those that are new to the concept, we have 6 prep casters basically at IdahoSports.com. And each week we choose 6 games, one from each of the 6 classifications in the state of Idaho, the pick 6. We take 6 games and we pick who we think the winner is going to be. So let's take a look at the week 6. Pick 6. Here are the season standings. Scott Burton still in first place at 23-7. Nostradamus. Ryan, you are a game back at 22-8. I'm a game behind you, 2 games back of Scott in first place. I've coughed up my lead, 21-9 on the season. Logan Green's at 20-10. Paul Kingsbury climbed over the 500 mark in recent weeks at 19-11. And Sean is occupying the basement, a full 5 games back of Scotty in first place. Sean, you are at 18-12. Here are the games we chose this week. Meridian at Middleton, Emmett at Valley View, American Falls at South Fremont, Westside at Declo, Idaho City at Wilder, and Lakeside at Genesee. We all picked Lakeside to beat Genesee. We all picked we all picked Idaho City to beat Wilder. We also all picked American Falls to beat South Fremont. So let's talk about where we differed. You guys all seem to be simpatico. You each took Meridian. You each took Valley View. You each took West Side. I differed. I went Middleton, Emmett, and Declo, respectively. Ryan, tell me why I'm wrong on that Emmett Valley View matchup.
Valley View's balanced. They're not so one-dimensional. I think Emmett has the potential to be one-dimensional, but they're really good at what they do. Like, I'm not going to slight them at all, but I just look at that matchup. Valley View playing at home, the dimensional offense that they're, multifaceted game that they can play. If it gets into a running matchup, they've got talent there. If they can get into a passing matchup, they've got talent at QB and receiver. You throw the kicking game into the mix as well. That's the edge I gave to Valley View on that one.
Sean, am I crazy for taking Declo over Westside?
You are. Next question. No, I mean, honestly, it's so hard to pick anything involving the Westside Pirates and Declo. I mean, it's a game. Yeah, could it be a coin flip? But I think when it comes to games like this, so many implications going forward, conference and state. It's hard to go against the Pirates and what they're able to do defensively and run the ball so well. That wing tee, all the different things they do, man. It's hard to go against the Pirates. So yeah, you are.
Okay. I mean, Declo's only lost once this year, and it was like 8-0 was all. I mean, I don't know. I think people are disrespecting Declo a little bit. It's still funny to see them in last place in their league standings too, because a lot of teams haven't played yet. And then I did take Middleton over Meridian as well. We shall see those. And you might be wondering, hey, well, where's Scott's picks? Where's Logan's picks? Nobody cares about Paul's picks, but where's Paul's picks? You have to check out IdahoSports.com's social media. Our Instagram account and our Facebook account. We post the full selection of picks there sometime after this show airs.
That's because Scott gets to pick them after the games are over, I think.
Yeah, Scott's engineered a backdoor maneuver where he went 6-0 2 weeks ago. That was actually pretty impressive. First and only time somebody's gone perfect on these, as far as I know. So, anyways, it is going to be a fantastic week 6 of high school football in Idaho. We're getting into conference play for the first time for some teams. And again, like I said, starting next week, we will officially be into October, or I mean, pretty much into October. And so we'll start the playoff implications. Yes, I will have the brackets. I'll have the projections. I'll have the Max Preps rankings at the ready. And so we will start peeking ahead and seeing, okay, who's looking good, who needs to do work. The best time of the year is here. The sprint to the finish line. We have officially crossed the halfway mark of the Idaho high school football season. Ryan Scaggs from the North Idaho Prepcast, thank you so much for joining us here on Gem State Game Day.
My pleasure. Thank you for finally letting me be on air with Sean.
We have to keep you two separated because you two get into a shouting match over which area is more slighted, North Idaho or East Idaho. But Sean, you're very civil tonight.
Hey, when you get the best looking broadcasters Idaho Sports has to offer on one show, what is there to argue about? I think everyone's going to benefit from this one way or another.
Couldn't contain how handsome we are. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, 3 Musketeers or 3 Stooges. We'll let you decide. But enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the competition, everybody. We will see you back here next week for another edition of Gem State Game Day. For Ryan Scaggs and Sean Kane, I'm Brandon Baney. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, to Gem